I'm generating 150 leads per month with my podcast, and I have helped dozens of coaches and consultants online do exactly the same. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do this. And I'm going to share something that we have never taught to anybody else than our clients only. So I'm going to cover the 5 things that you need to generate leads with your podcast and the number 1 golden rule of generating leads with your podcast. For those who do not know me, I am Guillaume Jouvencel, the co-founder of GHA Marketing. We help online coaches and consultants generate leads with their podcast and grow their business. So the number 1 thing that you need is a podcast. That sounds rather obvious, but what does it actually mean to have a podcast that helps you generate leads for your business? First off, we want to look at positioning and topic. Who is it that you're trying to help exactly? And what type of content should you be making on your podcast to actually help your business generate leads? To attract those, the podcast needs to address directly pain points of your ideal clients, their desired outcome, tactical way to solve their problems, because the objective is not to actually get millions of downloads per month on your podcast right from the get-go. That's a nice to have, but that's not the objective. The objective is not to get millions of downloads like Joe Rogan, at least not from the get-go, although that would be a nice to have. The objective is to generate high quality leads for your business. Those episodes can be interview episodes, solo episodes like I'm doing right now, or co-hosted episodes with maybe your business partner or something like that. The format doesn't really matter as long as you address those specific points that are going to be critical in order to generate leads with your podcast. And last but not least, riches are in the niches. It is super important to address specific points of your targeted clients because you do not want to go too broad. You want to be addressing specific problems, and actually, especially at the beginning, the more narrow you are, the better, because people will be more easily able to relate directly to the content that you're releasing and find solutions that they will think, okay, this will work for me. So if you have a fitness, coaching, business, and podcast, for instance, you might want to talk about health, nutrition, of course, exercise and fitness. But the further away you stray from this, the less likely you are to convert your audience into actual high quality leads for your business. Now, podcast is going to be a lot about authority and trust. Authority as in you're the go-to person that people can think of or even go to when it comes to specific problems in your targeted niche, and trust as in people actually believe and trust that you can actually help them solve the problems that they have related to your niche or your topic. And bear in mind that the podcast might actually be something people discover after having their first or second touch points with you. So whether the podcast is the first or the 6th touch points, it needs to be as high quality as possible to actually establish that authority, help people build trust with you, and therefore take the potential next steps of becoming a lead, if not a client. So how do you actually do that? Establish yourself as an authority and as a trusted person within your niche. Well, there are a few things that you need to put in place. The first thing is quality. You need to have as high quality content as possible because this is going to be making the difference between somebody listening to your show and becoming a lead or listening to your show and not taking any additional action. So you need to be focusing on actually solving problems with your content and making it so people are like, my God, this is such qualitative advice. Like, I wonder what his paid for or her paid for services are if the free stuff is that good. That's what you want people to be thinking when they consume a piece of content of yours. However, I'm going to give you 2 hacks on how to actually build that authority and trust much faster thanks to your podcast. The first thing is interview high authorities in your niche. You need to be thinking, okay, who in my niche is already established as a high authority that I can associate my image with, and then interview them on the show. Everybody loves being on the podcast. I had an interview with a really high figure person in the Silicon Valley, an investment banker, and he told me the following, like, when you propose people a coffee, nobody has time, or it's like, why would I go to a coffee with them? Propose them a podcast interview, and even if something really bad happened during the day, they will show up for the podcast. People love to be on podcasts. People love to be interviewed. It's a very good ego stroke that we must take advantage of, and you can actually get very easily access to high authorities thanks to a podcast. So take advantage of it, leverage it, and interview those high authorities. Not just 1 or 2, but as many as you can so that people see you associated with those authorities and they build that association between you and the authorities. Plus, a nice to have is that you tap into those authorities audience as well, and some of them will stay and become recurring listeners, and who knows, maybe some leads at some point. The second hack is to actually interview your own past and existing clients. Because think about it, something very important that people will have to check and make sure of before they take the next step with you and potentially become a client is that they need to trust that you can deliver the results that you say you can deliver. And in order for this to happen, nothing better than actually interviewing clients for whom you are getting or have gotten some results linked to the service that you're offering, and to structure the interview in a way that is emphasizing the problems that the person had before onboarding with you, the journey of working together with you, and then of course the results that they got. Because nothing beats a video testimonial apart from an interview video testimonial with both the service provider and the client who actually got results. And last but not least, content repurposing. So podcast is just so great at content repurposing. When you're thinking about it, and if you're scrolling on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, or any of the other platforms, you might see more and more short form content with actually a podcast setup being the short. This is because podcast is just so easily shareable on all the platforms that it really fits into this day and age where the point is to release short form content, but also having a holistic approach to content, being on as many platforms as possible, because whilst some of your clients might be spending most of their time and doing their research on Instagram, others might go on TikTok, others might be on LinkedIn, and others might be much more fan of the long form content on YouTube long form. So you really need to have a holistic approach, and this is what podcast allows as well. If you have video like this very video or this very episode, depending on where you're listening to this or watching this, is going to be on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. We're going to make clips out of it for all the social media platforms. I'm talking about LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, and TikTok. This is going to be transformed into an article for our website, potentially even a newsletter or something that we put in our lead nurture email sequence, many things. So the podcast format is really platforms friendly if done and edited properly. And this is what you need to have a podcast that generates leads. It's actually not just a single platform. It's focused on a single platform with this holistic approach for all the other platforms that can have derived content of your podcast episodes. Now, the second thing you need in order to generate leads with your podcast is a lead magnet. Now, what is a lead magnet? So I asked ChatGPT to give me the definition of a lead magnet to see what it would come up with. And actually, I was pretty happy with the definition, but it was quite long. So I asked it to summarize, and here is the summary of the description of a lead magnet according to ChatGPT. So a lead magnet is something free you give to people in exchange for their email or contact details. It's a way to attract potential customers, for example, a short ebook or guide, a free webinar or video training, a checklist or useful tool, a coupon or discount. The idea is to offer something valuable that your audience wants, so they'll be happy to give you their contact information. Then you can stay in touch and eventually turn them into paying customers. So the type of lead magnet that we use the most at GHA Marketing, even for us, is the ebook. We have some clients using VSL or PSL, so podcast selling letters or video selling letters, which are basically videos behind a contact information wall. And it's pretty much the same functioning, but ebook is very easy to set up. It can be seen as a very high value, high quality thing to like download for a potential prospect, but video and podcast work as well if you're more interested into this format. Now, it will pretty much depend on the niche and what you are trying to achieve with the lead magnet. Now, we will get back to what to actually do with a lead magnet once you have it later in this video/episode. But first, we really want to detail how to actually do a lead magnet. The way you want your lead magnet to present is it is an extremely valuable piece of content that either helps somebody take the first step into solving a specific issue that they have, or having a clear roadmap of what to do and where to go in order to solve that specific problem. It can even be the whole playbook. Like, you have people having quite some success with just giving for free the information, but selling the implementation. And that's something that you can do with a lead magnet like an ebook as well. But the most important thing is that it is of high quality and it makes people want more. Meaning, hey, I got so much value from the free stuff, from the lead magnet, that I need to see what this person has to offer with their paid services, because given the amount of value I got for free, I can't imagine how much value I will get if I pay for stuff. And this is where the magic happens. And the last important point about the lead magnet is that it needs to have a catchy name, a catchy title. You want it to reflect exactly what problem you're solving in order to get those leads to be like, hey, this is spot on what I need to solve for at the moment. Such as 3 ways to generate leads with your podcast, which is indeed the name of our lead magnet on our website. So why is a great lead magnet so important? Well, first of all, we want to look at opt-in rate, right? If you come up with a lead magnet that you didn't spend enough time on, that is not really targeted at your niche or a bit, off track, you might have a lesser rate. You might have a lower opt-in rate, which is not at all what we want to optimize for. The idea is to have as many people belonging to your ideal client avatar download the ebook. If the lead magnet and especially the title are a bit too off topic, then you won't get as many leads as you might want. The second thing you need to make sure of is the perceived value. Of course, the value is important, but what's even more important is the perceived value from the person downloading the ebook. You want them to go through this thing or the video or the podcast, right? You want them to go through the lead magnet and get as much value as they thought they would get, and even more. It's very, very good to exceed expectations on a lead magnet on something for free. The way we typically like to do this is we have a lead magnet that our clients or ourselves write, and at the end of the lead magnet, we give access to an exclusive video, like recorded with a high authority in the niche, giving even more value. Because again, the whole idea is like, okay, I was looking for silver, but I found gold, so I will take the next step with that coach or consultant. This is how you exceed expectations, and this is how you make sure that the perceived value is as high as possible, because this is going to be super important for when the person becomes a lead towards when the person becomes a client. And the last thing is engagement afterwards. So for most of the people who are going to download your lead magnet, most of them, and there are say 99% of them, will not become a client right away, right? You're going to have to do a certain nurturing on those leads. And this will happen mainly through emails or Instagram messages and DMs if you are opting for this route. But point being, you want them to be responsive, you want them to open your emails, you want them to potentially click on the links that you put in the emails. And we've seen a much higher open rate when the lead magnet is that good that people are like, hey, okay, I got so much good value from this ebook that I will open the emails because I know this person is providing me a lot of value. Also with the podcast, back to that authority and trust aspect of the content that you release. Now, I really want to double down on something here before moving on to the third thing you need to generate leads with your podcast. The more niche, the better, really. Like, I really want to emphasize this point because we will never press it enough. If you are targeting a very narrow niche, then this means that anybody within that niche will be like, yeah, this is content for me. And it's very tempting to go as broad as possible when you start or when you're designing a lead magnet, for instance, because you're like, oh, I want to capture everybody interested in fitness. But if you are actually a coach who is helping people getting back in shape after an important injury in a specific state, then this is what you want to optimize the lead magnet for, because anybody having that exact story living in that state will be like, no, but this person is exactly the person I need. And this is the reaction that you want. Now, as you build your niche and you become the undeniable authority within that small niche, then you can potentially go a bit broader. But if you have a specific ebook or a specific lead magnet that addresses that much of a specific point, then you're pretty sure that anybody who fits this avatar will download the ebook. And that's, again, a much more likelihood of conversion into a client afterwards. So riches are in the niches. You really want to nail down the niche and to have an as narrow as possible lead magnet, especially at the beginning. So where do you put that lead magnet is the third question we need an answer to here. And that's my third point in this video, your website or a landing page. Now, you want people to have a very easy way to download your lead magnet. That's basically it. You need to make it as easy as possible for people to opt in, give you their contact details, and for them to receive that lead magnet. In order for that to happen, you have a couple of options. The main one is the website, right? Probably the company's website. This video is not covering how you should manage your podcast on your company's website, but if you are having the podcast hosted on your website, or at least articles there, it makes even more sense. But even if not, you can have a lead magnet on a website where the podcast isn't present. It's just much more easy if you have the podcast there as well. If you do not have a website, then the alternative is to have a landing page that you can create with tons of tools out there, ClickFunnels being one, of course. The whole idea is you want a place on the internet that is yours, because on the podcast platforms, and you know this very well, Spotify and Apple Podcasts mainly are very stingy on the type of data they collect from the customers, which is good, but that means that you don't get a lot of access on who listens to you and what they're interested in and how you could potentially help them. Whereas if you take them to a place on the internet that is yours, your website or a landing page, then it's much more easy to control the narrative, it's much more easy to set up an opt-in form as well for the lead magnet, and it's much easier to also run some tests, because at a more advanced level, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna be testing lead magnet titles, lead magnet content, different approaches, different hooks, different way to present the lead magnet, and so on and so forth. And for all of this to happen, you need to have your own website, or at the very least a landing page. So the classic setup that we have for ourselves and for our clients is having a pop-up and a ribbon on the website. A pop-up will typically appear after 7 to 10 seconds. A visitor is on the website, and it will propose them the lead magnet with the main value add that they can expect to get from the lead magnet. We also have a ribbon right at the top of the website. This is a little band at the top of the menu. This stays all the time, and it just has a button proposing to opt in for the lead magnet as well. So I know what you might be thinking right now, oh, but I hate pop-up, and that's a good thing because I hate them myself. We have that in common. Now, the thing that is very important to remember is that everybody hates pop-ups, yet they work. This is still, to this day, the best way to get opt-ins organically without paid ads. We personally transform 8 to 15% of our websites and our clients' websites into leads thanks to those pop-ups and ribbon combination. So if done well, you will of course have the 1 to 2% minority who will be shouting about the pop-up, potentially saying how bad it is. You will have the 98% of your audience not caring at all and just clicking the cross on the website, or the cross on the pop-up, more to say. And you will have about 10% of people actually opting in because that's a resource that can help them and we brought it to them. So super important here to go a bit against our bias and have that pop-up, have that ribbon, because this is how you actually get leads from a podcast. Now, you have the podcast, you have the lead magnet, and you have a website / a landing page. What do you do next? Well, you need a funnel. You need a way to transfer the audience from the podcast platforms and from anywhere you release content, because as we've seen, podcasts can be so much more than just an audio episode. But how do you transfer all this audience from those multiple platforms towards the website or the landing page for them to actually have the opportunity to become leads? This is the fourth thing you need, and we are going to cover it right now. In a nutshell, you want anybody that consumes any pieces of content of yours to be eventually prompted towards taking a next step, an action, which is going to be opting in to get your lead magnet. But you also don't want to be too pushy, right? The whole idea is not to ask, not give away that much value anymore, and for people to feel a bit upset and not listen to you or consume any piece of content of yours. You need to have the right ratio between asks and gives. And this is what we are going to break down as well. For this to happen, you need to have a system. You need to have a funnel. You need to have certain things in place throughout all your channels to make sure that you certainly prompt people towards taking the next steps. So let's start with the platforms, for instance. And here we are talking about all the platforms, right? The podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts and Spotify, YouTube, the social media platforms, your website. You need to get people to take actions towards becoming a lead without being too pushy. So the way to do this is, first of all, to have a clear link in your bio, in your show description. I'm talking about the main show description, not the show notes, not yet. In your YouTube description, in your social media bios, you want anybody that goes and try to find out more about you to see that you have a lead magnet, which is more to say that you have a free resource that they can download to get even more value. So here you can have in the bio, in the show notes, and so on, a clear call to action saying, download here my free guide on how to get back in shape in 6 weeks after a back injury. Something like this. It needs to be precise. You can have this call to action, and then you need to put a link towards that lead magnet. It's super important to embed that link. You have to remember that people are lazy. People won't be copying a link that is not embedded, right? So people won't be clicking a link that is not embedded, right? So they won't go through the trouble of copying a link, opening a web browser, opening a new tab, pasting the link, finding out that they forgot the last 2 letters of the thing, getting back to the platform. This doesn't happen. It needs to be embedded link because you need to make it easy for people to connect with your lead magnet. You want it to be as easy as a click of a thumb to become a lead for you. hence the importance of having an embedded link in all your bios, all your descriptions, and so on. Now, this is for the platforms, but it also needs to be true for the pieces of content themselves. So for every podcast episode that you release, for every video that you release, for every social media snip that you release, even social media post, for every articles and so on, you want to have a subtle call to action to say, hey, if you want more of free value, you can download my free ebook about how to solve XYZ. So here in the show notes, for instance, we would position this at the top of the show notes because you want people to be able to see it. Although they haven't clicked on read more yet, you want it to be near the top of the YouTube description. You want it to be, depending on the type of post, at the beginning or the end of your Instagram post, of your TikTok video, of your LinkedIn post, and so on and so forth. Now, for social media, we like to give the value first, so we tend to have the call to action towards the lead magnet at the end. And bear in mind that on certain platforms, you cannot put embedded link in the captions. So for instance, Instagram and TikTok, you need to have a call to action that is not, hey, click here to download my free book about how to get back in shape in 6 weeks. Such as get back in shape in 6 weeks after a back injury. Here, you want to have a call to action, which could be, hey, DM me this word and I will send you the lead magnet, or I will send you my free resource, or comment under this video and I will send you the lead magnet. Like this, you get people to manifest their interest for your stuff and they become a lead that is giving you the right to reach out to them or even giving you their contact informations. This is how you want to position the call to action on the different pieces of content. Now, again, when possible, you need to make sure that those are embedded links, right? Back to the thing of making it as easy as possible for people to click on your link and get to a page where they can become a lead. It's super important to make this also on social media platforms and on all the pieces of content that you release. Apart from TikTok and Instagram that I have in mind right now, you can do this on all the platforms. So just go ahead. On YouTube, you cannot neither, but you can put a link that will be embedded on the long form, but not on the short form. So here it's a bit of specific setup to be done, but nothing too crazy. Now, I want to talk about a call to action in the specific piece of content itself, right? So in the long form podcast or in the long form video. So here, this one, you want to play it subtly, right? Back to that give to ask ratio. You do not want to overwhelm your audience with ask every 5 minutes of saying, hey, go and download my ebook or go and watch my video, which is behind a email address opt-in wall. You want to be a bit more subtle. So the way we like to do this is we like to have a call to action of no more than 30 seconds after the introduction of an episode, right? Whilst we still have 95, if not 100% of the audience. And also towards the middle or even at the end of the episode if the retention is great. So you remind people that, hey, they are consuming all this stuff for free and they're getting good value because they are still here, but they could be getting even more value if they were downloading your lead magnet. So a call to action like this within the piece of content themselves is good. Just make sure that you manage properly. If you have sponsors on the show, for instance, or if you have any other type of call to actions, for instance, we recommend everybody to have a call to action to grow the show. So getting reviews and followers. So you need to mix that and strike the right balance, but it's not too complicated. And it actually adds a potential call to action to remind people that you have this free piece of content that could be valuable to them. And because of repetition, you can eventually get them to opt in. Now, what about the fifth thing that you need to generate leads with your podcast? Well, it's actually kind of a bonus, right? Because you have now the playbook on how to generate leads with your podcast. But what to do of those leads is the next question we need an answer to. So it's great to have leads. And if you're implementing everything that we walk through in this video, you should start getting some leads. But what do you do out of those? So you need to nurture them. As said previously in this video, you won't have anybody downloading your ebook and overnight becoming a customer, right? They need a certain nurturing, they need a bit more massaging, and they need to get more value out of you before they decide to pay you for services. So as it's very good to have leads, but it's even better to have clients, let's quickly cover how to make that happen for your coaching or consulting business. So if you've done properly everything when it comes to the lead magnet, especially in terms of quality, you now have convinced people that you can help them, that you can actually bring value to them. It's just about nurturing them and getting them to take that leap of faith. So how do you make that happen? The main way we make it happen is through email nurturing, because our favorite way to get leads is through email opt-ins. But if you're doing that on Instagram, everything applies exactly the same. So what you want to be doing is to send them regular emails about additional valuable points and how to solve additional problems, right? You want them to be opening the email to get even more value. And what we also like to do is to send case study emails saying, hey, you've downloaded this ebook, you're trying to solve this problem. Actually, look at a client client that we just helped solve the similar problem, and here are the results that they got in that period of time. There is nothing more powerful than a case study if done right, and sending this as an email nurture can be very, very powerful because people already kind of trust that you can help them. People already kind of consider you as the authority. They already went to you for advice because they are consuming your content and they downloaded a ebook from you. But then when they see the type of results that you actually get in reality for your customers and your clients, this is where they might be taking that leap of faith. So super important, vary between emails that add value and like a bit tactical emails around solving a specific issue and emails around case studies. Now, in terms of frequency, so here you have different schools. Some people recommend different things. You have people sending an email every day for 10 days. You have other people sending an email every other day for 10 days. You have people sending an email every week because they are not that pushy. We like to have a bit of a best of both worlds. So especially when the lead just downloaded your ebook, they are quite hot right now. They are nurtured. They are ready to receive your content. So it's good to stay in touch. So we like to send an email every other day. So the lead magnet is the first one. And then 2 days after, they're going to receive a first email, either for additional value or even a case study already. We do this for 10 days and then it becomes once a day. It's also super important that in this email, you have some call to actions, especially at the end, especially for the case studies email. For instance, hey, we got that results in that period of time for somebody who looks very much like you, who potentially smells like you. So you might want to consider how we can help you as well. Here is a link to book a call with us. And this is the call to action that you want to have in those emails, right? You want to be calling to action for a call now because they have consumed your content for free. They have downloaded your ebook. They've probably read it or partially read it. They are opening your emails. It means they have had many touch points with you. The next step really is to book a call with you. And if they're not doing it right away, that's fine. Just keep on nurturing them with additional emails, additional value, and they will eventually get there. Now, I want to finish this video with the golden rule. I talked about it very quickly at the beginning of this episode. If you followed properly, you're going to know what I'm talking about, and that's something that I've already hinted on. But this is the golden rule that we particularly apply in GHA Marketing because we so much believe in it. Quality, quality, quality. We cannot overlook the importance of quality, especially in our day and age where there is so much content being released everywhere all the time. If somebody consumes a piece of content of yours and it's of super high level of quality, well, they will come back more often. They will recommend your stuff more. They will engage with you more. They will build trust with you much faster, much better. They will consider you as an authority much faster, much better. And they are much more likely to take on the next step, such as becoming a lead by downloading your lead magnet. Also, think about your ideal customer. Think about your clients. If they are consuming all your stuff for free for a certain period of time, and they're like, my God, I can't believe how much value I'm getting from this person for free. And I can't even imagine how much value I could get from their paid services. The quality and efforts that you put in your free stuff is going to be a reflection on the quality and efforts that you put in your paid for stuff. And it cannot be overlooked because although you're not getting paid for it, this is going to dictate how many people actually want to pay you for the paid for stuff. So quality, quality, quality when it comes to content, when it comes to audio, when it comes to content repurposing, when it comes to consistency, when it comes to the lead magnet, when it comes to testing, it's super, super important to have the highest quality possible. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you took tons of value for it. If that's the case, don't hesitate to let me know, right? A like, a subscribe, a comment is always welcome. If you want more of this stuff, I'll be releasing long form episodes very often as of now. So you can just hit the subscribe button, follow button, wherever you're listening or watching this. And if you're interested to having a discussion around how my team can potentially help you generate leads for your business with a podcast or with your existing podcast, we do that. So you can reach out to me or download our free book to have more even information. This video was pretty extensive, honestly, so if you apply all this by yourself, you will get leads. If you want somebody to do it for you, then I'd be happy to discuss how my team can possibly help you with all this. See you on the next video.